Good afternoon and happy Valentine's Day. This is going to be a little instructional video to help you with the rhetorical analysis. But first of all, quick review. I wanted to make sure that you remembered what is wrong with all these little grammar and spelling things here that we were supposed to study. Okay, this one says it's perfect. His cigarette is not so perfect, or at least the person who wrote the ad, right? You see it? This is one that I see a lot. This is a common one in Belize too. Lose it. Right. Lose different than lose. Yes. And the patience. Right? You see it? And this one, they're protesting about the schools, but they didn't go to school. They don't know how to write who's. I like this one. It's consistent. They made the same error twice, as if it were a real rule. And this one is funny. And this one is, this was a punctuation problem. People are eating children. I'm sure this is a translation problem, but it's funny. Okay, so I hope you got all of those. I hope you saw them all. And here are the parts of rhetorical analysis. I'm using an example that I sent you in my last email. It's an example about someone named Jessica Gross's article, Cleaning the Final Feminist Frontier, and a student wrote about it. And so this is what the title looks like. You'll do the same thing. You have your catchy little phrase, not quite a clean sweep. It's an article about house cleaning, and it's not completely really well done, according to the critic. So that's the quick phrase, right? And then rhetorical strategies in Gross's. Then Gross would be your author, and you put the apostrophe S to show that it belongs to them, and then you put the title of your video in quotes. So it'll look something like this. Some catchy phrase that shows your reaction to the video, and then a colon, and the rhetorical strategies in, I think his name is Zarella. Sorry, I couldn't remember how to spell it when I write this little video, but Zarella's quote, Millennials in Belize, because the title of the video should be in quotes. And here's another example using a pun. Sharon Matola wrote about how the dams that were built in San Ignacio were very bad for the breeding colonies of scarlet macaws. So if I wrote about her book, I could call it Damming the Dam, right? Because she didn't like the dams, and she damned them. And then, of course, my colon, and then I have my author and my article. So you can do that with video. The hook for the example one is a little idiom that's common, but of course you don't need to stick with that. There are lots of other sorts of hooks. A dramatic statistic, a phrase, a catchy quote, many things that you could use. Unfortunately, I did share this template with another class one time, and about 1/3 the class wrote an idiom, and then they wrote one such woman or man, and before they introduced the author. Okay, don't follow the template that closely. Start with any kind of hook, and then kind of move smoothly along to your context, which is your author, the entire full name of the video, the year and where it was published, and then of course the context continues with the author's claim or purpose. This person was arguing about people not doing their share of housework. Okay, so that's all there in the context. And how are you going to find that? Well, go to YouTube and look at that video again with the, not on Articulate Rise, but actually in YouTube, so you can see the full information and credits, and you've got the number of views and the date and everything, how many people liked it. After that, when we go into the purpose, we're not going to do a whole summary there. Just say what the article was about. Okay, the purpose of the article, to demonstrate, to entertain, to claim, to argue. Then you go straight down to your thesis, and we'll save that whole summary for the second paragraph. You could, of course, put the summary in the introductory paragraph, but it would make it rather long. I think it looks like a cleaner essay in the way that this example that I've shared with you, right? So if you could follow that, that would make some nice, clean introductory paragraphs where You have your context, you have your purpose, and then you go to your thesis. And your thesis does not have to have 3 points anymore. You're graduated beyond that at College English 2. You can have as many points as you would like. This one has a point about ethos because it says credibility there. It has a point about logos because it says citing convincing facts and statistics, right? And then it has a little point about pathos. And then it has a third point about how it wasn't really all of that well done, the pathos and the wording. So notice that the third point is added on with a transition that is for opposition. However, on the other hand, those are very good. So if you would like to look at something that you don't really like about the video, as well as some other things that you do think were effective, you can consider the use of however or other transition that shows opposition in the thesis. In this example, there are 2 successful appeals, but the essay is spoiled, in the writer's opinion, by a snarky, sarcastic tone taken toward the men and the use of the word barf. This is what the critic didn't like. So you would say this and this, semicolon, however, comma, not so good over here, okay? And you would put that in your thesis and then develop in the same order. So this essay had 4 points. And what you don't want to do, you can go back to 3 points if you like them, that's fine. But you don't want to give 3 points about the actual content of the article. Here I've spelled the author's name wrong. It seems that I cannot remember his name. It's Zarella. Zarella describes the aspirations of and the social and economic challenges faced by a small developing nation. That could be a nice thesis statement for me if I were summarizing that video, but it's not a summary, so you don't want something like that. Your 3 points will have to be about how Zarella made his points, okay? And you don't have to use the word logos, pathos, and ethos in the thesis. You can use their synonyms, credibility, emotions, etc. But it's good to, work those words in now and again because it is rhetorical analysis and you want to show that you understand it. And you want to show that you know the terms that were in the reading. And for your video, it's a video, so you get to look at more than just the words. You can look at the images, who Zarella chose to interview, the effect of the video on a Belizean watching it, the effect of a video on a foreigner watching it, etc. Watch the video several times and think about these things. What do you think about the video? You can criticize it, you can praise it, or you can do both using one of those tricky opposition theses like we just looked at, okay? So if you have a tentative thesis to share on Monday at the meeting, you can copy and paste it into the chat and we can examine it together so that I can kind of get a sense of where you are. If you want to just continue, then you go all the way to the summary, right? This is the summary and it appears right after the intro. And on the side it said you could also put an introduction, but I put a big X there because I think it's better afterwards. There's more room. The development starts in the 3rd paragraph, going to the first point in the thesis, which was ethos. And of course, it shows that they have, studies on sociologists. And Gross actually is a housewife, etc. So she's qualified. For Zarella, if you want to know if he's qualified, Google him. Look up a little more about him. See what kind of journalist he is. Has he won any awards, etc. He's not a Belizean, right? So even if he's a qualified journalist, he may be overreaching or oversimplifying or not understanding complex situation that you understand better as a native of this country. So you can also look, is he qualified to present this particular info? How about the people he interviews? Are they well chosen? Why or why not? You can look at what his tone is. As a Belizean, how does the tone make you feel? Do you feel that he's condescending? Do you feel that he's simply neutrally reporting? And also as a young person, because this particular video does go into a lot of young people who have made wrong choices. So as a young person, how does his tone make you feel? All right. Look for any stereotypes, etc. And that would give giving your opinion. I just want to point out from the template that they have these really great topic sentences for each of the development paragraphs that tie to the thesis, and that's purposeful, and it's a good idea for you to do. It'll make your essay stronger. So as you see, it says, adding to her ethos appeals, Gross uses strong appeals to logos with many facts. Okay, so it's going back to the thesis, and it's also tying the first development paragraph to the second development paragraph. It's good. And of course, you see that the development is all supported. The examples are always from the article. You'll be from the video. You can quote. And if you do a long quote, of course, you need to indent it as is shown. Okay? And then there's a transition, the same type for the third one, for the pathos, where they talk about the emotional words. And remember that for our video, it's not just emotional words. You can also look at the emotional impact of the images used. For example, there is definitely a dead body, right? So what are the impacts? Then the last development, the fourth development, is the criticism, where they say that the wording is not even very mature and it's jarring, and etc. Okay, so you can nitpick if you want. There's lots of things to criticize if you want. You don't have to say it's a great video. You can say what you think. For example, myself, as soon as the man said that this was a picture of the sleeping giant, I thought, that's Gracie Rock. And anyway, I was thinking to myself, is sleeping giant a good metaphor for Belize? It seems a little odd to me. So what you think about the video, the imagery, the metaphors, and the other devices used. Okay, so here's a good example of a conclusion which returns to the ideas in the thesis and brings them out a little more. And then the last sentence, which I told you in my last video, is called a clincher, is very professional when it hooks back to the hook. Okay, so there's a circular effect. The hook was the idiom, a woman's work is never done. And then, of course, it just continues it in the clincher, a woman's work could be done by a man. So that's a good example of tying the intro and the hook and the clincher to make a full circle. You should cite the video and any other sources that you may decide to use. You don't have to use anything but the video itself, but you do at least need to cite the video, okay? So go to the OWL Purdue Writing Lab site to find out how to format video citations, and best of luck. I'll see you tomorrow.